Yes, Leanne, a very good morning to you. Good morning to the viewers at home. It is the 16th of December. It's formerly known as Reconciliation Day. A bit of history on today. It used to be known as Dingan's Day, also the Day of the Covenant or the Day of the Vow, and of course, Umkhonto weSizwe being active today in history. So you can imagine a day steeped in tradition, a day steeped in culture, and also today a new anniversary will be formed, and that is the unveiling of the iconic Nelson Mandela statue here at the Union Building. So you can imagine a whole lot to discuss, a lot to talk about today when it comes to the proceedings. We'll take a look at the unveiling of the statue, which will take place a little later today with President Jacob Zuma doing the honors. But right now, let's go back to the tradition of it all. I'm joined by a rather controversial author, if I can say that. It is Robin Brinckes, and I'm holding his book at the moment. It's The Great Treck Uncut. It's Escape from British Rule, the Boer Exodus from the Cape Colony, 1836. A very good morning to you, Robin. Thanks again for joining us.
Good morning, Ayanda. Nice to be here.
Now, taking a look at the cultural and historical significance of today, are there any themes of perhaps reconciliation, perhaps the Trekkers that are picked up in this book?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole process of reconciliation really started with the Trekkers, believe it or not, in that a number of situations, the Trekkers and the local people formed alliances. At that time of the Great Treck, it was at the time immediately after the Imfikane, and the Imfikane had wreaked havoc across this country, where the Matabele had moved up into this area and the area to the west of us, east of us, and many tribes were decimated. When the Trekkers arrived on the scene, many of those people saw the Trekkers as being allies and formed alliances with those Trekkers against the Matabele. So to think of the Great Treck, for example, as something which was a black and white issue is incorrect. It was really an issue which affected all of our people of this country, but which was an issue of good and bad, or good versus bad, should I say. So reconciliation started there. In fact, the first major battle that the Trekkers engaged in against the Matabele at Vechkop, near Heilbronn today, the people who came to the relief of the Trekkers after the Matabele had left after the battle, the Trekkers were left for 2 weeks without water, without milk, without anything to move their wagons. They were in a perilous state, and the people who came to their aid were the people from Tabanshu, the black people, the Baralong, and they came and brought oxen to pull the wagons to safety.
Now, I understand that this book goes way back, as far back as a time that you chronicle when black Africans traveled more to the south, and perhaps some undertones of black Africans being foreigners to South Africa, if I can call it that. Talk us a bit about how far back it goes and the significance of that, and what you're trying to say with this book.
Well, you know, what I was trying to say with the book, to answer your second question first, was that the Great Treck was as a result of many years of history. And so I take the whole history of the country right back, in fact, to the migration of black people from the north, from the Niger and the Cameroon area between 300 and 700 AD. And I take their movement down into southern Africa and their first encounters, in fact, with the people who were the indigenous people at that time, which were the Khoi and the San. So I go right back to that period in history, which there isn't a great deal written about, of course. And I then track the history of the early Cape through the arrival of the Portuguese, first of all, and then the English, who tried to colonize the Cape before the Dutch came, and the experimentations by the English to, in fact, turn the Cape into a penal colony, believe it or not. And the first prisoners that were put on Robben Island were prisoners from England who were given the choice of coming to the Cape instead of being executed. And then I take the history right the way through to show the English oppression of the Boers and of everybody else, to be honest, and the consequent unhappiness of the Boers and the conflicts that were experienced between those early Treck Boers who moved up the coast to the Fish River and the 100 Years of War with the Xhosa, which is really a most unbelievable period of our history. We have a bloody and a torrid history, probably like no other country in the world. And today, to stand here on the Day of Peace and Reconciliation and look around and see black, white, colored Indian people, and particularly today, after 10 days of mourning after the passing of Madiba. This is just an incredible country to be in, and when you look at where we've come from, you couldn't have a better example of reconciliation.
I foresee that this book is definitely going to be on more than several people's stockings, Christmas stockings. It's one to get. Great Trek, Uncut, Escape from British Rule, the Boer Exodus from the Cape Colony, 1836. My thanks to you, author Robin Brinckes, and something definitely worth looking at, especially now that South Africans are doing a lot of introspection, I think, following the death of Dadu Nelson Mandela. So it's worth taking a look at where we are as a people. You may agree, you may disagree, but it's worth reading. And I called him controversial a little earlier because we were just chatting off air about how one of his books on the Voortrekkers were actually burnt, protests erupting from that. So definitely want to get Robin Brinckes. Thank you so much.